Hey, it's Michael Gale again. Another short video. I'm going to do a little series on the Whore of Babylon or the Harlot of Babylon, and start with this one's called "The Whore of Babylon is not the Catholic Church." So John spends more time on the Harlot of Babylon than any other subject in the entire book of Revelation, and the greatest celebration in the whole Bible takes place when the harlot is judged, when the harlot's destroyed. Is the greatest celebration in the whole Bible. And then John says, "Come out of her, my people." And so how can we come out of her if we don't know who or what she is? So I'm going to start this series on saying that the harlot is not the Catholic Church, and then we'll get into what exactly the harlot is. And so the harlot is called a mystery. If you've spent any time studying the harlot or listened to all the teachers, then you know how many different opinions are out there. Most of the prophecy teachers say the harlot is the Catholic Church. And that's why we're starting with that. And some say it's America or New York or Saudi Arabia. And so it's no wonder it's called a mystery. So I'm going to show you real simply why these commentaries on what the harlot, they're all wrong. None of those are true. She's not the Catholic Church. She's not America. She's not New York or Jerusalem or Saudi Arabia. None of these things. We're going to talk about that the harlot has been around since the beginning, since the flood. She's been around long before the Catholic Church began, long before, obviously, America or any of these other things. So she's been around since the beginning. So let's look at Revelation chapter 17. 17 and 18 are on the harlot. I'm only going to do the key verses here. You can fill in, read the chapters yourself, get the big picture, but we're just going to do the key verses right now to make this short and simple. So Rev 17:3. And he carried me away in the spirit into a wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast full of blasphemous names, having 7 heads and 10 horns. So John has shown the judgment of the harlot. He sees a woman, the harlot, sitting on a beast, and the beast has 7 heads and 10 horns. We've all heard this a million times before, okay? So then skip down to verse 9. Here is the mind that has wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits, and they are 7 kings. 5 of these kings have fallen. 1 now is, the other has not yet come. So that's how this starts. So John wondered greatly when he saw the harlot. And then the angel asked him, "Why do you wonder? I'll tell you the mystery." Then the angel tells John about the beast that carries her, that has the 7 heads. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which she sits, and they are 7 kings. Okay, now follow this. 5 of these kings have fallen. 1 of the kings now is. Then the other king comes after him. 7 kings. Mountains are kingdoms, and each one of these kings had a kingdom. So when John is writing the book of Revelation, he says that 5 of the kings that carry the harlot of Babylon have already lived and died. They've already lived and died. 5 of the 7 have already lived and died when John's writing Revelation. And then he continues and says the 6th king is living right now. And then the 7th comes after him and remains a little while. So according to one of the most ancient versions of the New Testament called the Syriac, John was exiled by Nero, the Roman Emperor Nero. We all know about Nero. And then he wrote Revelation around 68 AD. And so there's a lot of people that say it was later than that, but that's all based on one comment by Irenaeus, a church father who lived 100 years after John and lived 1,000 miles away. So I go with the Syriac version, where it actually says that Nero exiled John to Revelation in 68 AD, and plus John probably wrote Revelation in his 60s, not his 90s. Okay, let's go on. This means that the harlot existed long before John wrote the book of Revelation. How can the harlot be the Catholic Church or America or New York or Saudi Arabia or all these other things if it existed long before John? So the Catholic Church didn't even come into existence until hundreds of years after John. So of course, if you ask a Catholic when the Catholic Church started, they'll tell you at Pentecost, when the outpouring of the Holy Spirit. Acts chapter 2 was the start of the Catholic Church. course, that's not true. We all know that's not true. Um, it was the birth of the early church, and the early church was all Jews to start, and then the Gentiles came in after that, and then the disciples spread the Christian church to all the areas around Jerusalem, and which was all ruled by the Roman Empire at the time, and so the church was persecuted by Rome, all the Roman emperors, up until the third century, and this then in the third century. In 306 AD is when the universal church, or that's Latin Catholic Church in Latin, was created. And this is when Constantine declared Christianity the state religion of the Roman Empire. That was the beginning of what we recognize as the Catholic Church today. And so all the things that the Protestants and the Bible prophecy teachers, when they say it's the harlot's the Catholic Church, they're all associating the Catholic Church with what started in the third century, not the early church, not the Pentecost church of the disciples. And so none of the things that people, the Protestant world, I'm not knocking the Protestants or the Catholics here, I'm just telling you church history, this is just the way it was. And all this started with Constantine in 306, and none of the things that the church today, the Bible prophecy world today associates with the Catholic Church existed prior to the third century. So under Constantine, that's when the Sabbath was changed from biblical Friday at sundown to Saturday at sundown to Sunday. And then the 7 biblical feasts were removed from the Christian faith and replaced with some other feasts. And then the persecution switched from Christians to Jews. And the early church never prayed to Mary, and they were still baptizing people who repented and got born again. They were dunking them, that's what baptized means. It means immerse. They were dunking them. They didn't sprinkle babies prior to that, and sprinkle a baby, they haven't even sinned yet, much less repented. So all these changes and many more happened when Christianity became the state religion of pagan Rome. And that eventually led to the Dark Ages. But anyway, going back here, if 5 of the kings that carry the harlot lived and died prior to John writing Revelation, then it can't be the Catholic Church. It didn't even exist for almost 2.5 centuries later. Not to mention America, New York, Saudi Arabia, all the other things they come up with. Throw all that out. Just throw it all out. She is not called the harlot of Rome. She is called the Harlot of Babylon. And Babel and Babylon are the same exact word. Bet Lamed in Hebrew. You can call the Harlot of Babel, or you call her the Harlot of Babylon. Makes no difference. It's the same exact word. So here's what the harlot is. At the beginning of the Bible, after the flood, there was the first corporate rebellion of mankind against God. It was led by a man named Nimrod, whose name means rebellion. And the rebellion was the city and tower of Babel. Babylon, Babel, okay? The city of Babel is the mother of the harlots. In Revelation, it says the harlot is the mother of harlots. The woman is the mother of harlots. Babel was the mother of harlots. And she's been giving birth to many more harlots throughout history. She is the first. And then we've had many more after her. And we know what a lot of those harlots are now. At the end of the Bible, there is the Harlot of Babylon. She is the final manifestation of what started at Babel. In the beginning, we had Babel, one city. At the end of the book, we have the Harlot of Babylon, the great city. 7 times in the book of Revelation, the harlot is called the great city. We start with one city, Babel. We end with the great city, Babel, the Harlot of Babylon, the great city. And she is all the cities of the nations at the end of the age, in one final act of rebellion against God prior to the coming of Messiah. That's what the Harlot of Babylon is. So the Harlot of Babylon is the demonic spirit of rebellion. Rebellion against the creator of heaven and earth, rebellion against the plan of God. Her passion is to stop the plan of God. She is drunk with the blood of prophets and saints. The blood of all those who have been slain on the earth is on her. all through history, all the blood that's been slain. Slain means to be killed with violence. It's all on her. And she has existed from the beginning, and she continues to exist throughout history. She is responsible for most of the suffering of humankind throughout history. It's all on her. She rules over the kings of the earth. She brings masses together to war against each other. She brings the masses together to rebel against God. As we continue in this series, it'll become more and more obvious what the harlot is and why we need to get out of her. And don't be arrogant and think you're not in her. Believe me, if that's the case, then watch somebody else's video. So we'll continue with some of these topics I want to hit on coming up. The blood of all those slain on the earth is on her. I just mentioned she rules over the kings of the earth. Her merchants are the great men of the earth. That you don't want to miss that one. She has 3 nicknames. What's the first one? Sodom. Sorcery, murders, thefts. That's what she is. Sorcery, murders, thefts. Sexual immorality is her number 1 characteristic. Her secret weapon, porn. Sensuous and luxurious living is what she has to offer. And then we'll finish up with the identity of the Antichrist. We'll get back to those 7 kings and the 8th who comes at the end. And we'll see who the Antichrist is. And so don't forget my blog, endtimebibleprophecy.com, and my 2 books here on Amazon, The 2 Witnesses, and of course the Harlot of Babylon. If you want the details on a lot of this stuff, you can go to my blog, or you can check out my books, buy one of my books, and we'll see you in the next video. Shalom.